Tonight is a brand new episode of WWE Friday Night SmackDown from the Ball Arena in Denver, Colorado, and we're getting closer and closer to WWE Survivor Series and War Games at the end of this month. And now that we know the teams for the men's War Games match, but maybe not the women's War Games match, could Paul Triple H Levesque and his creative team have some surprises up their sleeve? We're going to let you know 5 possible major surprises that could take place tonight live on WWE Friday Night SmackDown. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of stories to get into in the world of professional wrestling. Before we begin, a huge thank you to everyone that has subscribed recently, subscribed years ago or somewhere in between, because we finally did it. We hit 25k in 2025. Really appreciate all of your support. This isn't possible without you, and it is only the beginning. So a huge thank you to everyone that has supported me and this channel. We've got some really exciting things planned for the end of this year as well as 2026. So this is only the beginning. It is much appreciated. Now let's get on to the countdown video. Tonight is a brand new episode of WWE Friday Night SmackDown as we are on the road to Survivor Series and War Games. It's going to be emanating from the Ball Arena in Denver, Colorado. And could Paul Triple H Levesque have some surprises up his sleeve as we get closer to WWE's Thanksgiving tradition? Let's get into 5 possible major surprises that could take place tonight live on WWE Friday Night SmackDown, beginning with the Last Time Is Now tournament. Yes, John Cena appeared for the final time on Monday Night Raw this past Monday from Madison Square Garden, but he does have a couple of more matches and a couple more dates left before he calls it quits on his in-ring career. Of course, he's facing Dominic Mysterio in a rematch for the WWE Intercontinental Championship at Survivor Series, but he's got another match, another date, which of course is his retirement date, his retirement match at Saturday night's main event next month in Washington, D.C. And the tournament to determine his opponent for his last ever match is well underway and will continue tonight on SmackDown. Now, this may be hard to believe when it comes to this first match, but Finn Balor and John Cena have only ever faced each other one time in singles competition. This happened way back when, in 2018, when the two met in an Elimination Chamber qualifying match, which was won by the never-seen 17-time WWE World Heavyweight Champion. Cena did also best Balor this past Monday on Raw in a 6-man tag team match. Of course, he was teaming with Rey Mysterio and Sheamus in his final ever match on Monday Night Raw. But Balor does have the opportunity to earn one more shot at Cena, and his road to Saturday night's main event begins this evening on SmackDown against Penta. Of course, Penta never faced off against John Cena in singles action before. I think they have shared the ring previously. I want to say in the Royal Rumble earlier this year. They might have been in the ring at the same time. I'm not too sure about that. But it is going to be Penta versus Balor. Now, this is interesting, of course, as well. You could have the argument to be said, well, Cena did share the ring with, of course, Finn Balor this past Monday night. In addition to that, he is facing off against Balor's Judgment Day stablemate at Survivor Series in Dirty Dominic Mysterio. So maybe they tease that John Cena's on a collision course with the Judgment Day in his final match. Not that I think anyone actually expects that to be the case. I think the general consensus is probably going to be Gunther in that retirement match next month, the Saturday night's main event. Penta, meanwhile, Penta's a really interesting one in WWE. Of course, he's had a huge successful year since debuting right at the beginning of this year on Monday Night Raw. If you compare he and his brother, he's certainly been much more successful, much more popular, and been booked much more strongly. Maybe in more recent months, Penta hasn't necessarily been picking up as many wins as he was earlier on this year, but he's still incredibly popular, and he still is one of a real success stories when it comes to WWE's more recent signings. So I'm going to say that Penta advances in this tournament this evening and defeats Finn Balor. I mean, at this point, Finn Balor, at this stage in his career, he's probably more defeats than he does victories, doesn't he? The former Intercontinental and first ever Universal Champion. So I'm going to go with Penta to win this one. Not that I think either is really going to go too far in the tournament in terms of actually facing Cena at Saturday night's main event next month. Now, before I move on to the next number on this countdown list, a reminder, this video is brought to you in collaboration with all of our great affiliates. That includes NordVPN. You can see right there, you can get up to 77% off, plus 3 months extra. Big time in pro wrestling coming up in the next, 6 weeks or so as we round out 2025. Not only have we got AEW Full Gear tomorrow, which of course I'll be doing a watch along and a post show for, We then have Survivor Series and War Games at the end of this month. Next month, of course, we've got the aforementioned John Cena retirement match as well as AEW World's End. But let's just focus on WWE here, because if you're in the United States, you're watching SmackDown tonight on USA Network. What if I told you you didn't have to? Because you can watch it on Netflix just like I can here in the UK. You can do so by getting a VPN and changing location to an international territory like here in the UK. That means you can watch Raw, SmackDown, NXT, main roster PLEs, NXT PLEs, all part of your Netflix subscription. Plus, you can watch John Cena's retirement match, his retirement show, Saturday Night's Main Event next month for free on YouTube. That's right, over here in the UK, we don't have Peacock, so we can't watch it on that streaming service. So it's for free on YouTube. All you have to do is get a VPN. You can use our link. You can scan our QR code, use our custom link. That's nordvpn.com/WN365. Once again, that's nordvpn.com/WN365. You can get up to 77% off, 3 months extra. Also, save yourself some money, streamline your viewing experience, and you can support this channel in the process. Your support is really, truly much appreciated. Next up, we've got more tournament matches. You can't really see him there, but he is him, and he is in this tournament against Big Bronson Reed. That's right, it is Bronson Reed versus Carmelo Hayes in the last time is now tournament first round match. Bronson Reed picked up the biggest singles victory of his career back at Crown Jewel Perth when he defeated Roman Reigns in an Australian street fight. Now, the big man could soon cap off his breakout year by possibly retiring John Cena, but Carmelo Hayes isn't just going to lie down for Aurzilla tonight in Denver. With The Miz no longer holding him back, the former NXT champion is out to remind everyone that he's also a future main event star. Melo doesn't miss, and he is him. The question is, can he be him this evening? This is an interesting one because logic would suggest that probably Bronson Reed wins this again. You want to talk about booking and victories. As I just mentioned, Bronson Reed picked up arguably the biggest victory of his career, defeating Roman Reigns at Crown Jewel in his home country. He's also part of one of the most featured factions on WWE television in the Vision. He's front and center when it comes to War Games. He's part of that main event for the second consecutive year, sharing the ring this time with the likes of Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, Cody Rhodes, CM Punk. It's really a who's who of who's on top in WWE right now, isn't it? So he's certainly in a very strong position. Now, I suppose you could make the argument that maybe, even though he's expected to defeat Carmelo Hayes this evening, this is when a Cody Rhodes or a CM Punk or a Jey or Jimmy Uso does get involved and cost Bronson Reed the match, and it only adds more fuel to the fire for that War Games match coming up Survivor Series. That's possible, but I think the likelihood is that Bronson Reed wins this one. I think it's a good match. I think, as they always say, styles make fights, right? You've got the hard-hitting, surprisingly athletic Bronson Reed, but certainly much more of a high flyer in Carmelo Hayes. And Carmelo Hayes' tenure on the main roster so far, it's left a little bit to be desired. Some people had really high expectations of him, given what he achieved in NXT. He was such a front and center part of that brand, and Shawn Michaels was clearly the biggest fan of him. And since he's been called up to the main roster, yes, he's won an Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, but a tag team with The Miz, and they break up and they kind of feud, they kind of don't feud, and nobody really cares. Is that really what people had anticipated for the former NXT champion? Probably not. So I don't think he sort of gets the momentum and beats Bronson Reed this evening, unless, as I mentioned, it's being used as an angle to add more fuel to the fire. Once again, I don't think either one is going to be facing John Cena at Saturday Night's Main Event. Although, if you could get to a point where you have Bronson Reed versus Gunther in a sort of a latter stage match, I think that's an incredibly exciting match, a real physical match, and that's two meaty men slapping meat, as Big E would say. But I'm going to go with Bronson Reed to win this one, and maybe you then have a post-match angle where you get a Cody Rhodes, or you get someone from the Babyface War Games team, or maybe even just a promo by Paul Heyman himself, talking about how dominant his team is, how stacked it is compared to maybe the Babyface team, considering what happened Monday night on Raw. Now, we're also going to be getting a celebration this evening from the Women's United States Champion. Yes, Chelsea Green. She is going to be celebrating tonight. It was 2 weeks ago that Chelsea Green made her story. See what I did there? By becoming the first ever two-time WWE Women's United States Champion. Now, she's requested a grand inauguration to mark the beginning of her second term. And for General Manager Nick Aldis' sake, let's hope he doesn't skimp on pyrotechnics, confetti, pomp, and circumstance. Because seemingly he's I don't know whether or not that will happen. Now, of course, Chelsea Green, along with her tag team partner Ethan Page, were successful on NXT Gold Rush in defending their AAA Mixed Tag Team Championships against Joe Hendry and Thea Hale this past week from the theatre at Madison Square Garden. And it's not really yet been, I think, properly confirmed or official if Ethan Page is on the main roster with Chelsea Green. He was there at ringside when she won back the United States Championship. And of course, they're now across NXT. They're the AAA Mixed Tag Team Champions, so they're going to be involved in that promotion now, of course, owned by TKO/WWE as well. So one would think that Ethan Page is just part of the act at this point. There had been rumors going back to a couple of months ago that WWE were actually quite keen to call Ethan Page up to the main roster. They were really happy with the chemistry and what was going on between Chelsea Green and Ethan Page when it comes to being these sort of mid-card national champions. In the case of Chelsea Green, a women's United States champion. Ethan Page, the men's North American champion on NXT. Of course, Page has turned it into sort of a Canadian-esque championship, and maybe Chelsea Green will do the same here. That's why I kind of predicted her to win the women's United States championship a couple of weeks ago in the very same SmackDown Surprises video. So I think we get a celebration this evening. Now, it's WWE, it's pro wrestling. Celebrations don't just go completely uninterrupted. So someone's going to interrupt Chelsea Green in this segment. As for who it could be, your guess is as good as mine. Of course, you've still got Julia, who could possibly be going after the title. There's a bit of confusion, isn't there, about Julia's status? I think a lot of people compare her to Stephanie Vaquer because they came into NXT at the same time. And you see Vaquer on Raw be so successful, win the Women's World Championship. She's going to be in a featured spot, I think, at WrestleMania next year. She's really on top in that brand. Meanwhile, you have Julia. Yes, they've paired her up to have a manager, but it just feels like it hasn't just really clicked just yet. Now, there were reports and rumors suggesting that maybe Julia dropped the Women's United States Championship to move in to the Women's Championship picture on SmackDown. Time will tell when it comes to that. There's a lot of really talented superstars on SmackDown that I suppose could interrupt a Chelsea Green. Quite a few of the high-profile ones are involved in the Women's War Games match, so they're kind of occupied at the moment. Maybe it is just a case of Thea Hale and Joe Hendry interrupting, and it's an angle that's been on NXT and AAA that crosses over to SmackDown. That's entirely possible. Joe Hendry now is a full-time WWE superstar. How long he's going to stay in NXT is anyone's guess. We know that Shawn Michaels is a big fan of his, and sometimes popularity on NXT doesn't necessarily translate over to the main roster, but in this day and age of social media, maybe WWE want to try an angle that crosses through 3 different promotions. It's on AAA for the mixed tag team titles. It's on NXT because Ethan Page is the North American champion, and it's on SmackDown because Chelsea Green's the Women's United States champion. So you've got main roster, developmental, and an affiliate promotion or a sister promotion all involved in one angle, which is kind of quite interesting, I suppose. So Chelsea Green's going to have the celebration. It's inevitable somebody's going to interrupt, isn't it? Next up, are we going to hear from the American Nightmare, undisputed WWE champion Cody Rhodes? Well, one would think we would. Of course, this past Monday night on Raw ended in a huge amount of chaos, didn't it? As we had this big brawl going on between the men's War Games teams. We know that, of course, the team is rounded out completely now, and we know exactly what the lineups are going to be for either. We had this situation where CM Punk was in the ring, then Brock Lesnar made his return to WWE television, attacked CM Punk, dropped him on his head. The World Heavyweight Champion goes out the ring. Then the undisputed WWE Champion Cody Rhodes comes in, faces off with Brock for the first time since Brock Lesnar's final match before he disappeared for a while at SummerSlam 2023. And even though they shook hands and embraced at that PLE a couple of years ago, it seems like that's all in the past now and they've forgotten about it because Brock dropped Cody on his head as well. And Brock Lesnar aligned with the Vision and their War Games team. And the idea of seeing Brock Lesnar in War Games is a very interesting one, to say the least, isn't it? But then you had Roman Reigns come out. Roman Reigns leveled the beast with a Superman punch. So there's a lot for Cody Rhodes to talk about. Cody likes to come out and say, what do you want to talk about? Well, I think it's War Games. That's what he wants to talk about. I think that's what a lot of people want him to talk about. So there's a lot of different things here. Did Cody Rhodes know Roman Reigns was going to come out? Cody's got an incredible history, to say the least, with Roman Reigns. So what's his status on that? What are his thoughts on that? Did he know he was going to come out? Did Punk arrange that? What's the situation there? So we'll be talking about that. Of course, also, he'll be talking about Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar's coming out. Again, someone that Cody Rhodes has got a huge history with, dating back from their trilogy of matches in 2023. Of course, it was the night after WrestleMania 39 on one of the worst Raws ever, that in the main event, it looked like it was going to be Brock Lesnar teaming up with Cody Rhodes to face then undisputed WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns, teaming up with Solo Sikoa. And then, just as the match was about to start, Brock Lesnar dropped Cody Rhodes with an F5. And then Lesnar flipped off the crowd, and then they had their trilogy of matches at Backlash, Night of Champions, and SummerSlam, with Cody Rhodes winning it, them embracing, and then Brock disappeared. And of course, he wasn't to come back for quite some time. So Cody, I think there's a lot of storyline and there's a lot of story he could probably fill in with a promo when it comes to that. And then, of course, you've got the superstars on SmackDown, people like Drew McIntyre, who joined or affiliated, shall we say, with the Division last week to close out SmackDown. And one would think McIntyre would probably interrupt the undisputed WWE champion there as well. How McIntyre is able to appear on the show, his suspension, etc., etc., will probably also be explained too. So expect to hear from Cody tonight on a variety of topics, including Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, and Drew McIntyre. And finally, speaking of War Games, are we going to find out who these final participants are in the Women's War Games match? Now, technically, WWE is still saying that Charlotte Flair isn't going to be involved in the match. Of course, a couple of weeks ago, she said that she wasn't going to be involved because she had issues with Rhea Ripley and trust issues, and because of their past, Charlotte Flair is going to be in the match. I think Alexa Bliss even did an interview this week when she was doing some media and said, I expect her to be there. Charlotte is going to be there. So let's just say, for the purposes of this video, Charlotte Flair is going to be in this match. That means still you've got 4 on either side, and both are figuring out who their final member is going to be. One would think coming out of Raw this week, now that she's no longer the Women's Intercontinental Champion, it kind of does look like, doesn't it, that the heel side is probably going to get Becky Lynch on their team, and that would mean by proxy that the babyfaces are going to get AJ Lee, of course, made her return Monday night on Raw in Madison Square Garden, helping distract Becky Lynch, losing the Women's Intercontinental Championship to Maxine Dupree. Now, whether or not that actually happens tonight on SmackDown, I don't know. Technically, either I don't think are SmackDown superstars, but then AJ Lee made her return to WWE on SmackDown when Becky Lynch was in the ring, and a segment that involved no SmackDown superstars because the brand split really doesn't matter when WWE wants it to not matter. So I think you could see a scenario whereby maybe you have AJ Lee, Becky Lynch appear on the teams. Basically, you can kind of do a repeat of the angle that you saw Monday night on Raw, whereby they're brawling. Out comes Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch gets involved, helps take out the baby faces, and then as the baby faces are struggling and the heels look like they're standing tall, that's when AJ Lee comes out and maybe evens the playing field, and the show goes off the air with AJ Lee standing with Ripley, Sky, Bliss, and Flair. And in the entrance ramp, you've got Jax, Legend, the Kabuki Warriors, and Becky Lynch. And then suddenly the War Games teams for both the men's and women's match are figured out. I think that's probably something that looks likely to happen. So there you go, guys. There are 5 possible major surprises that could take place tonight live on WWE Friday Night SmackDown. What are your thoughts? Which ones are more likely than others? Let me know your thoughts, your reactions, your predictions, your opinions, as always, in the comment section below. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there, subscribe, or the bottom right-hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.